Anyway, let's get our attention now onto what's happening in the United States. And we have seen, of course, the last few weeks, months, years, non-stop talk about charges being brought against Donald Trump, whether it's a civil case involving allegations of rape, whether it is about hush money for Stormy Daniels, a porn actress, his former lover, being paid from campaign funds, that case coming up next year, or whether it is the charges about him being involved with, all these confidential top-secret documents involving nuclear secrets being kept in a bathroom at Mar-a-Lago. Well, now the tables have turned, and much glee, although also much anger on the Trump side, as we did see President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, reach an agreement to plead guilty to various tax and gun charges. However, Republicans are rather unhappy about the fact that this is a sweetheart deal, as the president's son has avoided jail, which would have been the normal response, the normal punishment for what he is pleading guilty to. Let's talk to Greg Swenson. He's chair of Republicans Overseas UK. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, I mean, look, long time we've had Donald Trump and his acolytes saying, look, calling the Biden family the Biden crime family, all these millions of dollars swishing around, pretty much unaccounted for. Hunter Biden getting huge sums of money for brokering apparently deals in Ukraine and elsewhere, when no apparent expertise in this area whatsoever, other than he's the son of the former vice president and now the son of the president. He's now pleaded guilty after a 5-year criminal investigation into his financial affairs to 2 tax offences and also buying a weapon while abusing drugs, lying about that. Both of those could actually have led to him facing jail time. He won't face jail time, we understand. And now the Trump and his fans are saying, look, this just shows the Department of Justice is politically biased. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump is innocent of everything he's been accused of. I don't know yet, but there's clearly a 2-tiered justice system here, and it's not just the outcome on the 2 charges. They're going to waive the gun charge if he stays off drugs for 2 years and he doesn't buy another gun. 2 things I'm not sure he's capable of.
Yeah.
And on the tax evasion, look, conservatives are typically sympathetic to people who do their best to, pay their fair share, to use Joe Biden's quote. But look, this was, obviously he's guilty of these two things. Did he get a sweetheart deal? Possibly. But what you brought up is more important than the punishment for these 2 crimes. It's more importantly, it's that they didn't address the most egregious issues, which are, the pay to play scandal, the bribery scheme, or at the very least, the sale of influence, the influence peddling by not just Hunter Biden, but by the Biden family, including Jim and Jim.
And a lot of this came out with the Hunter Biden laptop that he went to take to be mended, and then never came to collect it again. And it had pictures, porn, self-made porn. It had, evidence of drug taking, but also numerous emails, numerous contacts referring to multi-million-dollar deals, but also referring to the big man, which everyone has taken to refer to vice president, as he was then, Joe Biden, now president, of course. And the idea that somehow Hunter Biden was able to use his father's name, his father's position, to basically make money. And I can get you access, I can get you in, I can get you a deal. My dad's on side. That is a basic level of inappropriate behaviour at the very least, and certainly corruption at the very worst. Why has there not been an investigation into that?
Because he's got favored treatment by the prosecutors, by the FBI, by the Justice Department. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. They've had this information, including the tax and gun charges, since 2018. If he was going to get a sweet deal on those 2 charges, again, taxes and guns, they could have done that quickly. They could have done that 5 years ago. They've been sitting on this information for a long time. And now you have the release of the FD 1023, which is an FBI document from an informant that also talks about the quote unquote big guy and Joe getting paid for this. Not just Hunter, not just Jim, but Joe. And look, I don't think conservatives really care about the drugs and the prostitutes and the guns. Yeah, unseemly to say the least, and sad. But what's much more important is the potential that Biden, the president, is compromised with China, with Ukraine, and with Russia.
I have to say, look, I'm no fan of Donald Trump and a lot of these conspiracy theories, but it seems to me there is absolutely a case to answer. And again, as we would have with drug families, unexplained wealth. Where is the multi-millions in the Biden family? Sort of unaccounted for, I think raises enough questions, and it's certainly something should be looked at. If I was Department for Justice in America, I would be looking into that to prove that we were not, that we're not one-sided. I mean, I'm all in favour of all these corruption charges, these various charges being brought against Donald Trump. It needs to be worked on both sides. Greg Swenson, Chair of Republicans Overseas UK, thank you for that. I want to bring time for Benedict Spence. I know you follow American politics closely. It seems to me there's certainly a case to answer here for not just, a former drug addict in Hunter Biden trying to make his way, do you know who my dad is? Yeah. But Joe Biden basically colluding with this.
How on earth do you square the idea that he might have got a sweetheart deal? I understand that he's the president's son, but if you're the candidate who's supposed to, convince the Rust Belt not to vote for Donald Trump, how can you get away by saying, I'm average, I'm normal Joe, but by the way, my son gets preferential treatment? And all of this, as you mentioned, the laptop, it goes back to the fact, I still find it staggering that in the middle of an election cycle, that story was suppressed.
Yeah, we didn't cover it because I didn't have enough information on it.
Because it was being suppressed.
And it was being suppressed, exactly.
And I just find that so staggering because it gives every conspiracist on the Trump right fuel for decades.
And there is every likelihood that would have actually been enough to sway the election.
Hugely.
It was awful Trump, goody Joe Biden. And there's some serious question marks. I have a funny feeling when Joe Biden leaves office, as eventually will, in whatever way, that these will be looked into, and then everyone will say, isn't it terrible we didn't talk about it?
Yeah.
Well, we should be, and I didn't talk about it for long enough, and I'm glad we are talking about it now. Up next, we're going to get an update on the news. We're also going to be talking more about that race to save the Titanic sub and whether or not those banging noises heard detected by a ship overhead will actually prove to be proof of life. That's coming up. This is Talk Breakfast.